Alright guys, we're going to review the steps for dividing. We're going to look at dividing with decimals. So it kind of goes with the same steps for dividing with whole numbers that we used before. Okay, we're going to follow does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers raw still, where we're talking about dividing, multiplying, subtracting, checking to be sure that it's less than our divisor, bringing down our next number, and then returning to the top to start over again. The thing we're going to skip now, because we're done with 4th grade, you will no longer have remainders. Okay? Ran out of room. Okay? You're going to start rocketing up a decimal. And once we have decimals, remember we can always annex zeros. So I'm going to show you what that means. Okay? Don't freak out if you're confused, because we're gonna look at this. Okay? So let's do 107 and 2500ths divided by 3. I wrote my does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers raw right over here. So I'm going to go through step by step. And I'm going to color code mine. If you've got colors, if you have crayons or map colors or highlighters, you can do this if you want to. Okay? So our first step is divide. We want to see how many times 3 will go into our number. So we start at the front. Will it go into 1? No. So we're going to put our little placeholder invisible 0. Now we're going to look. Will it go into 10? Yes, 3 will go into 10. I think about my multiples 3 times. Okay. So that goes to our, I'm going to check that off. We divided. Now I'm at multiply. I'm going to multiply the number I put my quotient times my divisor. 3 times 3 is 9. I'm going to line that up. See how they all line up. There's the number that I divided with in my quotient. Here's my dividend. Here's my product. I'm going to line it all up. Check off my multiply step. Now I'm ready to subtract. 10 minus 9 is 1. So now that I'm done with my subtract step, I'm going to check it off. Then I'm at my check step. Is what's left, that 1, less than my divisor? So is 1 less than 3? Yes, it is. Done with my check step. Now I can bring down. I'm going to bring down the very next number, a 7. Done. Now I'm going to return to the top and start all over. So I'm actually even going to put right up here and start over. So now I've got divide. I'm on my new number right here, 17. How many times will 3 go into 17? So I think about my multiples. 6 times 3 is 18. That's going to be too much. So I'm going to go down 1 to 5. 5 times 3, that's my next step. I'm going to multiply again. 5 times 3 is 15. I write my product right here. Everything's all lined up. I'm writing it all lined up. Starting with the 5 I wrote here above the 7 that I brought down and lining it all up. So then my next step is to subtract. Oh, and I should have been checking them off over here as I did them. 17 minus 15 leaves us with 2. My next step is to check. is what's left. 2 less than 3? Yes, it is. Now I'm at my bring down, and my very next number is 2. We're just going to ignore the decimal until the very end. So now I've got 22 after I bring down, and I'm at my R. I'm going to rock it back up and start again. How many times will 3 go into 22? So I think about my multiples. 7 times 3 is 21. And that'll be good. So I'm going to write it right above that 2. 7 times 3. Oh, check it off. 7 times 3 is 21. So there's my multiplication again. Everything's lining up. All right there. Oop, let me check off my multiplication. Now we're at subtract. 22 minus 21 is 1. Now I'm going to do my check step. What I subtracted is my difference right here. 1 less than 3, my divisor. And yes, it is. So now I can bring down. My next number is a 5. And I've got 15. Check off my bring down step. Now I'm ready to return to the top and start again. So I look, how many times is 3 going to go into 15? I know my multiples. 3 times 5 is 15. So there's my fourth multiplication. 5 times 3 is 15. Check it off. Now I'm going to subtract. 15 minus 15 leaves me with 0. I'm going to check, is 0 less than my divisor 3? Yes, it is. There's nothing else to bring down. So I'm going to put an X at bring down. There's nothing else for me to bring down. So now my R is going to be to rocket up my decimal. So I'm going to put my decimal right here. I'm going to come over to my divisor, my dividend. There's my decimal. I am going to rocket it up. Okay. Then you always check your division with multiplication. So we're going to multiply 35 and 75 hundredths times 3. We're going to pretend it's a whole number. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry my 1. 3 times 7 is 21. Plus 1 is 22. 3 times 5 is 15. Plus 2 is 17. Sorry. Carry my 1. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. Then I'm going to put my decimal back. I've got 2 numbers behind a decimal. 0 right here. So that means I need 2 numbers behind the decimal. I'm going to start at the imaginary decimal behind every whole number. 1, 2. It goes right here, which is 107 and 25 hundredths, which is what our dividend was. It is a lot of steps, guys. But look, if you write it down and check it off every time you do it, it helps you keep it all lined up with what you're supposed to do. We're going to look at some other ways to do it, and we're going to be practicing a lot, so it's okay. On the next side, let's see. On your reflection side, on the other page, you're going to have 2 examples I want you to do. Okay, the first one You're going to divide 6 into 43 and 8/10. And you are going to divide 4 into 37. Now, you should already know, looking at this number, that 4 is not going to go into 37 evenly. So, one of the other tricks with decimals, usually you would say, oh, it's going to go in 9 times with the remainder of 1. When we start dividing with decimals, you're going to have to remember that every whole number has an invisible decimal behind it, and you can annex as many zeros as you need, and it doesn't change the number. We still have 37 as our divisor, but now you have these zeros to bring down and to keep going. I want you to try this one. If you get confused, it's okay. We're going to talk more about it, but I want you to try it. Okay? Have a good night, scholars.